Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Triangle Offense. This is Monish, and as always, I'm joined by Nishant. In our previous episode, we spoke about the Western Conference table, possible playoff matchups, and all the permutations and all of that. On today's episode, we'll do the Eastern Conference. Eastern Conference is like a stepbrother, right? We always talk about it second and not the West. Not like the West where we always discuss the teams in the West and all of that, but the Eastern Conference is close. Everyone's muddled up after the top three, and we need to talk about the Knicks because they've been doing amazingly well. Alright, so let's take a look at the Eastern Conference table. The Brooklyn Nets have risen to the first spot. Very likely they'll sit there because KD is back. Kyrie is balling it out. James Harden doesn't have a schedule when he'll return, but looks like they have a lock on that. Or do you think the Sixers can catch them? Because the Sixers have the easiest schedule in the NBA, the remaining schedule, the last 12 games.
Yeah.
And they need the first spot because they don't want to face the Bucks in the second round.
Yeah.
Any chances that they'll catch up?
Yeah, I think so. Can't rule it out at all because, like you said, the schedule's incredibly easy. You would expect Philly to win those games, and they don't have any injury concerns right now. Well, Simmons, but I think they can take those teams even with a half fit or an absent Ben Simmons. They need to, like you said, nobody wants to face Giannis in the second round.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe they can take the Bucks, but why would you want to wear yourself down with that matchup? So and Doc Rivers isn't the kind of coach to settle for second if he can go for first. So all signs point to they're going to go for it, and they're only a game behind. So
Right.
it's Brooklyn's to lose, but I see that happening given Harden's recent injury concerns. Because otherwise Harden doesn't skip a game. He'll do anything else, but he won't skip a game.
Yeah.
Given KD's, I mean, he looks good, but at any point they might want to take a precautionary couple of games off, possible. And then, Kyrie might have a charity to attend. He might have a sibling's birthday to celebrate. Who knows? So I can't say it's impossible that the Nets will drop a game or two. I see that happening.
Okay.
So yeah, it's possible, but it is definitely the next Nets position to lose.
Yeah, and also looks like the 76ers wanted more, right? Because the Nets don't seem to care wherever they finish. Also because if you finish first, or you finish second rather, you might end up facing Miami Heat, Boston Celtics, who knows in the first round. Whereas if you finish first, you would probably end up facing the Washington Wizards or Charlotte Hornets, and you take that. Also, because the 4th and 5th place teams right now are the New York Knicks and the Atlanta Hawks, which means a possible second round matchup. Do you think there's a possibility of a New York derby there? Knicks are amazing. I mean, I don't know how they're in fourth spot when we did the start of the season power rankings. We didn't put them in our top 10. We probably put them 14th or 15th along with the Detroit Pistons.
Yeah.
They're sitting in 4th. We thought it'll fade away. We thought Julius Randle can't have the streak forever.
Yeah, we don't know how they're
10 games
still
to go.
there. Like that's the
10 games to
shocker.
go in the season. He's still there. He's averaging 25 points, 7 rebounds. It's like almost Jokic's numbers. He's averaging 40% from 3. And before this season, in 6 of his previous seasons, he's averaged 30% from 3 once.
Yeah.
I don't know how he's doing it. He's doing it. So New York Knicks have been doing amazing. So New York Knicks versus Brooklyn in the second round, is that a possibility? Do you see that happening?
Yeah, and so many talking points there. I think, where was this Randall when the Lakers drafted him? And we waited a whole year for him to get fit to play. And then he played okay. But I always thought Ingram was more promising. Even thought Kuzma was more promising. That's wrong. I think Randall's 3 shooting is great credit to him, but also the kind of opportunities he gets now. I think sometime towards the end of last season, they discovered that he is probably their most potent offensive weapon, and they should stop wasting time hoping for RJ Barrett to turn into like Ray Allen or something. So he started getting more, like the usage rate went up. He got better looks, and full credit to Tom Thibodeau, who's using him so incredibly well to get the best out of him. So it's a combination of all these things, but it's super impressive. And if you're the kind of guy that brings up numbers in your arguments to prove superiority, go ahead, Google it. Look at points, rebounds, and assists per game, Zion versus Randle right now, this season. The most hyped phenom. I mean, we get this question so many times. Is he a top 20 player in the league, Zion? Go ahead, compare the numbers to this underrated Knicks superstar, who himself in his own right was a number 4 draft pick, I think, a lottery pick, nevertheless.
Right.
Is there going to be a derby? Wouldn't that be nice? Especially if the crowds are back by then.
Yeah.
I can only imagine how raucous the crowd at the Garden would be just for a regular season game, given how New York are playing. If it's a derby against Kyrie and KD, who spurned the Knicks to go to the Nets for good reason, but you can't expect the New York crowd to be forgiving or understanding of this.
Of course.
That's a mouth-watering clash, regardless of the result. Just the crowd and the atmosphere. If I could pick one series to watch as the first series to watch after crowds are back in arenas, I wouldn't even pick the Los Angeles Derby. I'd pick this one. That's the series that has all the drama. I can't wait.
Before the Knicks go there, they would have to face the Atlanta Hawks, who are currently in 5th position, who have done amazingly well. Since the new coach Nate McMillan took over, they have the best record in the league. Can you believe that?
Yeah. No.
Right now they are affected with injuries. Trae Young is gone, but Bogdanovic, did I get the name right? Yes, I did. He's doing amazing. He's shooting 48% from 3 in the last few months. And what the hell is 48% from 3? They have John Collins, who's playing like he deserves a new contract in some other club, some other franchise maybe, but New York Knicks versus the Atlanta Hawks, do you see that to be a close game, or do you think the Knicks are stronger? Because in their current head-to-head, New York Knicks have won all the 3 games. They swept aside the Hawks. Julius Randle putting 40 plus in one game. Any chance that the Hawks might beat the Knicks?
Yeah, it'll be close. I would still give Knicks the edge, but it'll be a great contest. And the Hawks, it's Rondo moved out. The Shorter's gone for a bunch of games. He missed a lot of time. Collins was kind of coming off it, a series of injuries. Capella came off an injury that kept him out for half the season. And all of these disjointed pieces came together. And I don't know what it was after the All-Star game that they just flipped a switch and boom. Best record in the league in recent times. Driven largely by Trae Young finally understanding how to get the best of his team, integrating everyone into these plays. Capella flourishing in his role, proving it's not just James Harden that made him look good. But really, Bogdanovic's shooting, remember we panned him. Just 2 months ago, we panned him, how miserably bad he was. And probably the only thing where Sacramento came out looking good after they made a move. Incoming or outgoing, it's a joke what they do. And he's just shooting lights out now and he's justifying. How bad are the Bucks kicking themselves right now?
Oh no.
For fudging that move up. Like that's a lock for the NBA Finals if they had Bogdanovic. In that Bucks team right now, if you had Bogdanovic, oof. So look, the Hawks have a mouth-watering offense. But they really have a fuck all defense. Except for Collins. Capella a little bit here and there, but he's not all that. Knicks have a potent offense. They're shooting really well. They've added playmaking before the trade deadline. They have a Julius Randle who's like he's their African-American Luka Doncic, so to speak, right now. It's almost like that. He's that good. And the numbers don't lie. And most of all, they have an incredibly powerful defense. That's something Atlanta don't have. They have pieces here and there that can defend. And in the playoffs, only too often it comes down to that. It's a big ask for Trae Young and these guys to make clutch shot after clutch shot. That's why Dame Lillard has all that hype, right? Because he's done it so many times, very few others have.
Right.
It's not something you bank on. You bank on players that don't let it come to a stage where you have to make clutch shot after clutch shot to come back and win. And that's where I think the Knicks have the advantage, but it'll be a very intriguing series.
Absolutely. If the Knicks and the Hawks are going to take the 4th and the 5th spot, that means one of Boston Celtics or Miami Heat would have to play the play-in game.
Yeah.
Right now they're level on points. Boston Celtics sitting above Miami Heat on head-to-head. But man, what's wrong with these teams? We expected them to be a second round playoff team, either the Celtics or the Heat, and even probably trouble one of the top teams. Yeah. But they're sitting in 6th and 7th spot right now. Any hopes for them to make it to the conference finals? Because that would be their ambition, right? Miami Heat are coming off an NBA final. Boston Celtics have made 3 of the last 4 conference finals. Yeah. So it's kind of surprising.
You want to know why we treat the East like a stepbrother? What the hell keeps happening every year in the East? So for a decade or so, in the 2000s, I'm not even talking about now, since Jordan, for a decade or so, it was basically who's coming out of the East to lose in the finals. It was just that. Like the Lakers would come, trounce whoever came from the East and go, three-peat, easy.
Mm-hmm.
I think Lakers dropped like 2 games in that entire 3 finals
Yeah.
runs. Like, what the hell? And then gentleman sweep, sweep, gentleman sweep. Like, that's how it went. And then the Spurs came, trounced. Every blah, blah, blah. Until LeBron came. And
Yeah.
with like a couple of aberrations in between that Detroit Pistons 1 year. These were a joke. Then you come to this decade. Every 2 years, they have a new powerhouse.
Mm-hmm.
Most of that has to do with LeBron James. Before Steph Curry woke up, they won. After that, it was
Yep.
who would come out of the East again to lose to the Warriors. Earlier, it was who would come out to lose to the Western Conference finalists. Now it is just, it's the Warriors. So who's going to lose to the Warriors? And then they have this. Like the finalists last year are a joke this year. They're probably going to have to play a play-in. Without really much change to their squad. Yes, initially they suffered some injuries. But I think this gives... Would you be disappointed as the Heat? I don't think you would. It is a young squad that's developing. They grossly overachieved last year.
Yeah. Tyler Hero's gone missing, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
if I had an award for the most
Overrated?
not overrated. I don't think he's overrated. I just think he's having a bad slump in form. For the player who's slipped down the most from last season, it would be Tyler Hero. I mean, I expected him to achieve great heights and achieve it soon.
Yeah.
Sooner than Kendrick Nunn and all the rookies he joined with. But man, he's just disappeared.
Actually, I think Kendrick Nunn is a lot more sound on fundamentals than Hero. Hero's a hot streak shooter. And he's got that fearless, I'll take a shot no matter what the circumstance ability. And that's useful in a scorer. Why I say overrated is not because I don't believe he's worth the hype. I think the hype came too early. You've got to wait for a little consistency before you start putting him right up there. Like right now, why are we discussing, like last season we were discussing Hero in the same breath as say Zach LaVine.
Yep.
That's got to be earned. At least 2-3 seasons of doing what LaVine's done. LaVine's also not proven much either, but at least there's consistency there. It's okay. I think the Heat overachieved last season. I'm more disappointed with Boston because after all of that run, and they did it with largely the same core. So what the hell happened? Two things. One, what in the world is that coach doing with the squad? But two, even more importantly, what's the GM doing? It's too easy to say fire the coach. Very rarely do we actually hear the GM being held accountable.
Right.
When the coach is held accountable, when the GM puts a squad that's capable of going to the finals or the conference finals, and the coach falls well short consistently, puts together a team that can at least make the playoffs, and then you fail miserably. Okay. But the flaws in the squad. You needed a big man. You knew this last season. You did nothing to fill that. I mean, okay, you got Tristan Thompson, but he's busy cheating on some Kardashian, what's her face? Anyway, so you've done nothing to fix it. It's exactly like Portland, right? Flaws and holes in the squad wise, they're exactly where they were last season. You've done nothing, absolutely nothing. Portland at least have some sort of cap space excuse. These guys have tons of cap space from the Gordon Hayward move.
True.
And they did nothing. So they've got to kick themselves. There's really no other way of looking at this. They're going to get trounced in the playoffs. They're going to get their ass handed to them. They'll maybe win a game to save dignity or two. And that's about it. They're going out in 6 at best to one of the stronger teams. I don't see them doing anything in the playoffs. It's a disgrace what they're doing with their franchise.
It's kind of sad, right? I had high hopes for the Boston Celtics, and they had one of the most exciting duos in the whole league, Tatum and Brown. And well, you could say that they were the most affected team with injuries. I'm looking at one of the stat which said the number of days missed, player days missed due to COVID, and Boston Celtics sat on top of the list.
Yeah.
So it's kind of probably the reason, but they had a good run. They won like 9 straight, and then they started losing again. They lost to okay, listen to this. The Oklahoma Thunder are on a losing streak. They lost 14 in a row, and they were tanking their way to the end of the season.
Yeah.
And
they beat
God knows how many more draft picks they want.
Yeah.
And they beat the Boston Celtics.
Yeah.
That's a weird game where both teams lost. So that happened recently. Moving on from the Boston Celtics, the Charlotte Hornets sit 8th, and they've done incredibly well to sit in 8th spot despite the injuries to Hayward and LaMelo Ball, and they're still there. They're still sitting in 8th spot, just ahead of the Indiana Pacers and the Washington Wizards. And the Washington Wizards are one of the hottest teams in the NBA right now. And if that's a play-in series with one team coming out, assuming that Heat or Celtics would be the other team, I would pick the Wizards right now. Even though they're 10th team, I would pick them over the Pacers, over the Hornets as well.
Assuming the Heat don't suddenly become the Heat, just possible. If they do, none of those teams are beating them. But if the regular season trend and play style continues, I actually think the Pacers are going to come out in this pile up. Let's say the table stands as it is. So it's Heat, Hornets, Pacers, and Wizards, right?
Yep.
I think the Pacers can take the Wizards. They just got better shooting and better defense. I think they can easily take Miami or the Hornets, whoever comes out on top. Unless you suddenly see last season's Miami in just like a flash in the pan 2 games and they blitz to the playoffs. Possible, like Portland last season, right? But but otherwise, I actually think the Pacers have the best chance to come out.
Okay. My problem here with the Pacers is that every week they seem to have new bunch of guys playing, because you had a nice core. You had Brogdon, Sabonis, Levert, there Michael Jordan, who hasn't played, TJ Warren, who hasn't played this season at all. And they had a nice bunch. But every week they seem to have some kind of injury, some players missing, and now suddenly you have the Holiday brothers starting, you have Summer starting. I'm like, where did Brogdon go? Where did Sabonis go? So it's kind of weird that you don't have a set starting lineup. But at this current form, I would see the Wizards going through, because Westbrook and Beal are on a hot streak right now, and I don't think they're going to cool down anytime soon.
Yeah, the form's with them for sure.
So those were the top 10. No chance for the Chicago Bulls to catch up. They've fallen behind quite a bit. Lavine missing few more games, so I don't see that happening. Any chances there?
It's for the best.
It's for the best. Okay.
Yeah. So then, because then Lavine, he's going to be fed up with the organization. He's going to say, "You can keep your Vucevic up your ass. I'm out." And
okay, I know where this is going, so I think it's about time we end the episode. But those were the Eastern Conference standing. It's always nice catching up with you, and I'll catch you next week.
Peace. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.